Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast.
Everyone has at least one good story.
And some of us have stories that are just to the left of normal.
We're interested in the ones that push the boundaries of what we can perceive.
Stories that defy explanations.
Stories with an air of mystery.
Stories we might not share
for fear of being thought of differently.
But don't worry, we're all friends here. So, what's your weird story?
Happy New Year, Weirdsville! Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast. I'm your host, Barry Johnston, and with me as always, my co-host, my ride or die, my best friend in the world, Mr. Adam Beebe. How are you, sir?
Happy New Year, Barry. Happy New Year, Weirdsville.
Yes.
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm excited for the new year. I'm excited for all the new things that are going to be happening for us here on the What's Your Weird Story podcast, as we kind of we're getting some stuff that we've been talking about for a while, almost a year maybe in some cases, but we're finally making some inroads and we're getting some stuff done. And so we've got some cool plans coming up for this year, so I'm excited about that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to ride out the fun of the holidays and the fun of, finally getting past this crazy 2020 and into 2021. And, just excited about all of this stuff and trying to, not fall into the post-holiday celebratory blues, but enjoy, everything for as it's the promise that the new year brings.
Absolutely. And 2020 was a really weird year. I think it's probably one of the weirdest years to date, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure.
And celebrating that, we are finishing up, we're tying it all, putting a nice little bow at the end of the year, tying it up in our second episode of our yearly reflections on weirdness.
Yes. The Weird News Roundup Part 2. Because there was so much weirdness. God, man, we didn't even scratch the surface.
That's true.
On all the weird stuff that happened last year.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much weird stuff, and we were talking a little bit off air about, just how much strangeness there was in the UFO community. Obviously, with COVID and all those things, the things that we had to battle through this year, some of those stories, it was a nice way to get out of the normal, mundane, hit you over the head with the reality of this world. So it was a weird year. It wasn't a great year for a lot of people. We realized that, and we wanted to put something together for folks that would be, something a little more cheerful, fun, and outside of the norm. Yeah.
So we're gonna dish out some more of the scraps of the New Year's leftovers. I don't know. But we got some more good stuff for you guys. And then we'll be back on track with our regular broadcast formula of having you guys, our friends and listeners and guests, join us here on the show and tell your own real life, true, weird experiences. Without further ado, 2020. What is more of your weird stories? So here is another story from December. A lot of stuff happened, it seems, in December, or at least maybe it's because we're recording this in December. We've noticed,
right.
But this one happened on the 19th, so it's still very fresh. And it says it is from. I got this from Slate, but it was all over the news. But from Slate.com, and it's about the announcement from Vice President Mike Pence, who he gave an official, thing, is, quote, I'm quoting the Pence here, it is my honor on behalf of the President of the United States to announce that henceforth the men and women of the United States Space Force will be known as Guardians.
Nice.
Yes, he goes on to say, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines and Guardians will be defending our nation for generations to come to ensure that America remains as dominant in space and from space, as well as on land, sea, and air. So obviously, a lot of people are, Guardians of the Galaxy comes up quite a bit in reaction.
It has a very L. Ron Hubbard Scientology kind of a feel to it, doesn't it?
Dude, the whole thing of it is really strange because, it seemed like a lot. It seemed like the whole thing of it, honestly, to me, seems like some kind of a weird. I don't know. It seems almost unnecessary. Right. Which is strange, because whenever it was announced that we're making the Space Force, we're establishing it. It's like, was it just so that, we could be first with that? Is it so that, Trump could put his name as being the founder of this, the Space Force or whatever?
Yeah.
I always thought that they should have called it the Spacey. It's like
right,
Navy.
Right.
I thought that would be a cool name.
Well,
but
that's got a negative connotation with Kevin Spacey. So,
very true. Very true. I didn't even think about that.
That's why.
And also Spacey seems kind of like, it's like airheaded or whatever. But
that's funny though.
So yeah, but Space Force all of it seems very science fiction, very comic.
It is weird,
and that's coming from me, who loves that shit. So, but yeah, and of course they've got the symbol, which is basically almost 100% ripped off from Star Trek.
Right.
That kind of arrowhead kind of thing.
Yes.
And it's
you couldn't write it better, could you?
Right.
This.
And it's like, look, it's really taking, these things from, kind of popular culture, and mashing it all together and then changing the name a little bit,
Right.
So it's Space Force, which sounds like, it sounds like Space Force. Space Force sounds very, maybe 80s at the best.
Yeah.
But definitely to me sounds very 50s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, Guardians there's a whole lot of things with Guardians. Guardians sounds like Guardians of the Galaxy, of course.
Right.
But it also seems like it's taken some kind of inspiration from maybe the Bible with guardian angels and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Guardians of the Earth.
Yeah.
That, and of course, if Pence had his hand in it, it's definitely going to be something like that.
For sure.
But
it is interesting,
man, it's
dude.
just, it's cool. It's good that we're having it, getting it in line, but still, it's just so
it's bizarre. It is bizarre. I do see it as a chess move too, because I think somebody's got to make that move. And I do think that, with all the shit, it's like we were talking about before, all this stuff that's coming out about UFOs and UAPs, and it's just odd that we're going. I mean, I know that this is not supposed to have anything to do with that, but I do think that there's got to be some crossover here. There's got to be, because that they're going to come across something, and at a certain point, they're going to have to use that information that they've got and share that information with other government entities. Mm-hmm. So I do wonder how much of it has to do with them being able to do more, I guess, research or whatever you want to call it in outer space and use government funds to do that. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's why we have NASA. We have NASA to research.
I know, but
but we've defunded NASA so much.
Right. But this,
that we got to hitchhike with, Elon Musk or whatever it is, SpaceX,
But this gives them the ability to military up in outer space. You know what I'm saying? To fucking, which I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that too. You know, I do feel like that we need to know what's going on. But it's just weird that we go from, you know, all this talk of, UFOs and stuff being figments of our imagination to, hey, let's put a space force together in order to protect the planet from ourselves. Is the kind of the way that they word it, but I think that there's a little bit more to it than that. I think that they're probably going to get into a little bit more alien type stuff. That's just me because of what what some of the folks in the government have been saying about UFOs and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see where it goes from here. But it's crazy. These are crazy times.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see, man. Like you said, I worry about the militarization of space, and it's how you going to divide space, into national territories.
Yep.
It's like the ocean, but space is like, you can't just hover in space. We don't have that technology that I'm aware of to have just hover. You have to orbit,
right?
And
you're going to cross country boundaries when you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
so
bizarre. It's bizarre, man, for sure. It's been a weird year, and this kind of just tops it off.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure something else is going to happen in the next few days. That's going to, we'll be saying that again. So,
right.
I don't think this is connected to the monolith. We can say that pretty safely, though.
Right. Connected to this in some sort of way, there's a story that is it comes from the HuffPost, and this is back in October, but it's basically, there's a movie that came out called The Phenomenon, and it's covering what Harry Reid had to say, because they interview him in this movie. And I haven't seen this movie yet, which I need to do that. But I did see the Joe Rogan podcast where they had the director of the film. It's a documentary about a bunch of different UFO and UAP sightings and interactions that they've had, different people around the world that have had. And but they did sit down with Harry Reid, who he's the former U.S. government or a Senate Majority Leader, and they asked him about the government covering these things up, and his response was kind of interesting. He said that he doesn't know why the government has put the brakes on things in the past, but it's not a good idea, he says. And he feels like it's time, that we get really expose all the information that we have and get to the bottom of it. And when the director asked him, so there's a quote in here, and it says, "Are you saying that there's some evidence that still hasn't seen the light of day?" And his response was, "I'm saying most of it hasn't seen the light of day." And
right.
I thought it was interesting too, because he said that it's not that he says take aliens out of the equation, because that's a separate thing, and it's just that there's something out there, and we've seen these things, and we don't know what they are, and we need to find out what exactly is going on. And he's like, I'm not saying that it's little green men. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there is technology out there right now that we have no explanation for and have no idea how it works, and we should be trying to figure out what's going on. And something else that's interesting is that it talks about, and I didn't know this, and maybe you did, but it's part of the film. They talk about the U.S. Navy. In 1967, there was a report about they saw some UFOs, and apparently it was over a U.S. missile base, and there was 10 missiles there, and at that time they became inoperative when these sightings had happened. And they asked him in the interview about it, and he's like, not only like did this happen, like these were seen, but they could not use these missiles if they wanted to, because for whatever reason, like they were unable to be used. They knocked out their system somehow. Yeah. Now that's weird, and it's concerning in a way, because you don't know. My mind goes to a couple of different places. If there are beings or whatever out there that would like to take us over, it would be very easy for them to do that, especially if they're able to do that. And but at the same time,
realistically, if they're able to travel here, they're going to be able to take us over, because they're going to be technologically more advanced.
Right. And the fact that they haven't means that maybe that's not what they want, right? And one of the things in the film that they talked about in the interview that I saw on Joe Rogan was that there was we talked, I think we skimmed over this a little bit, but there was a school in Africa that this UFO landed at in the 90s, I believe. And there was hundreds of school kids that saw this and were out on the playground with this thing. And some of them got within like an arm's reach of these beings. And they had this interaction with these alien creatures that telepathically communicated to them. And they went back to these school kids who are now grown-ups now and interviewed them. And all of them had a similar story about what was said. The interaction between and the interaction was peaceful. It was a message to us about how we should treat our planet better, basically.
Right.
That's fascinating to me. I would like to know more about that, and any information we can get on that is beneficial to me in the way that I see things. But it's hell of a fascinating story, man. And this kind of stuff is just like, my mind is blown in so many ways, because it's like the fact that we're taking this story seriously right now is pretty mind blowing.
Well, like you said, the past, year and a half or so, there has been so much upfront and in the news, and recognized by the fact that there are these. We have the Tic Tac. We have those videos, the Navy videos for sure, that have been that were released and then basically forcibly declassified by the Navy and the Pentagon. And them acknowledging, we don't know what this is. It's not ours. And then you have the stories where with Harry Reid saying that we have these technologies, we have examples of these technologies that are not ours. And there's nobody else on this planet that we know of, and probably, simply are not of this planet. And so like this is all stuff that has been, people who are into ufology and have been studying, the history of the different stories and all these bigger cases, they believe this, they know this. There's been, since Roswell or before, but certainly since Roswell. Whether Roswell happened the way it did or it didn't, we'll never know. But at the same time, that's really been, that's the spark that ignited it all.
Right.
Because that is what started Project Blue Book and then all the other kind of secret military and government investigations into UFOs.
Yeah.
And of course, they shut it down after, however many time publicly shut it down, but they kept going with it. And that's what Harry Reid wants. He's like, I want to know this information. I want the people to know that this is still going on because, and we know that they've asked for more money to continue, this kind of research and stuff, as well they should, I mean, it's, we've got there's so many sightings, so many things and stories we don't know about that they're, haven't been reported or haven't been publicly released, so I mean it's something that we definitely should continue to investigate and do, and I do know that story you're talking about with the they were testing out some missiles that were going to be carrying nuclear warheads, and this UFO appeared, and when it did, it seemingly somehow activated the missiles. It short circuited them, or it maybe there's an EMP or something, but it made it to where they couldn't operate at all anymore. And they were just basically turned into giant sticks.
Right.
And that's kind of what it is like a UFO or an alien race that is, or even, as some people speculate, time travelers, us from the future, come back and, if they can get here through space or dimensions or time,
right?
Us throwing nuclear weapons at them is basically the same as us throwing sticks.
Yeah, true.
Just big sticks,
right?
And at a not even not like a woolly mammoth or even a car. It's just they're beyond our ability really to do, much damage to it, would seem, defend ourselves from.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that I think it was Stephen Hawking that was saying that, if aliens do come here, they're not going to be coming in peace.
Right.
And so we're going to be subjugated or conquered or, destroyed, wiped out off of existence, for our resources, which is, would be completely ironic because that is what the human race has done to our own planet.
Right.
But let's hope not for that, and if they are if they're us from the future, if they're time travelers from the future, that is to a little bit of hope that we will survive as a species until that time. I mean, we may have evolved into, grays or weird looking, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, that there's a little bit of hope in that,
Yeah.
But still,
well, it's
who knows?
It's the conundrum that we live in as human beings. We have a finite number of days that we live. And as we grow and as technology becomes more and more advanced, we start finding that, our animalistic instincts are sometimes, we have to adjust the way that we live our lives, because we have a greater responsibility to the planet, to ourselves as human beings. And maybe this kind of a story helps you step outside of your initial, day-to-day activity. And I do think that it's interesting that we've taken a hard position on this now, that it is possible that these things exist, because in a way I think that maybe the government is trickling these things out in order to soften us up, to get us used to this idea. For who knows, man, they could use it in a lot of bad ways, and they could use it in a lot of good ways. And I hope that we use it in good ways, in that we don't use it in a way to control people. And I'm afraid that that's where it's going. And and I think it's interesting that it hasn't gotten more traction, because there's not a lot of people that are covering this stuff, which is just amazing because of the shit year that we've had. It's been buried in a lot of news stories because we've got other things to worry about. We've got, global pandemics and, all kinds of political shit going on. But to me, these stories are life-changing and something that needs to be followed up and looked into. And I look forward to 2021 because I hope that we get more information on this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's been a wild year for UFOs, and obviously space stuff. It's
been a great year.
The majority of
for
it's
that.
Been a great year for that. Yeah, a lot of other bad shit, but but yeah, obviously a lot of our stories that we've reported on these these your wrap up news special, whatever we're calling them, very space oriented. So let's shift and get back down to earth and get back into a more interesting, more mysterious, more scary and spooky and maybe supernatural, maybe not
cool
story. But 2020 marks the 20th anniversary of the first known sighting, or at least report, of the chupacabra. So, I think that's kind of an interesting thing. It's surprising because it seems like that's been part of our, been part of this for a while. It seems that's been part of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that particular cryptid has been with us for much longer, but it was only there. It first surfaced in March 1995.
Wow. Wow.
And of course, it came from Puerto Rico, where it was first. I believe it was first, central Puerto Rico, and it was 8 sheep were discovered with 3 puncture wounds in the chest area and reportedly completely drained of blood. And of course, that's where the name chupacabra comes from, which is goat sucker.
Right.
But.
Yeah, and they had. Remember a few years ago they had some video of what they were calling the chupacabra. That was it looked like a really odd dog. Did you ever see that video?
Yes. Yeah.
And
there's been a couple of things that they've thought were chupacabra.
Yeah, I never really got anything more than that video of that odd looking creature.
Well, one of them that I know of, it turned out to be a hairless raccoon.
Oh, really?
And whether it had mange or something, but it lost all its hair, and so it didn't look like a raccoon. Because when you take hair off of animals that are hairy, they look very different.
Right.
And, you can see that perfect example of that is if you go and look at those the hairless cats, who just look weird and alien and very, very strange.
Right.
So if you take the hair off of any animal, that especially an animal like a raccoon that has just very distinctive markings, they're going to look very different.
Right.
They're going to look very strange and unrecognizable. And it's kind of like that with the Montauk beast, the one that this creature that washed up on the shore in Montauk, and everybody, they took these pictures, and a lot of the pictures have been gone back and people had edited them and did weird things to them, but nobody's sure exactly what it was. But it was hairless, and so it could have been any number of things that we just don't recognize.
Right
off the top of ow, sorry. My cat decided that she wanted to come up into my lap,
of course,
and instead of jumping up, she decided she wanted to climb and pull herself up. So she just dug her front paws into my leg and her back paws into my calf.
That feels good. I got attacked last night. My foot got attacked last night by my cat, dude. Freaking dug his freaking claws into the bottom of my feet while I was sleeping at 3 a.m. Oh my God, that hurts.
I'm glad my cats don't really do that. They don't really attack my feet. If they do mess with me while I'm sleeping, I guess I'm a good enough, deep enough sleeper that I don't realize that they're, I'm sure they're probably crawling all over me and everything, but who knows?
But yeah, so and mange is something in dogs that you see, dogs will, get these big spots and sometimes just become totally hairless, and it looks weird. And so if you see a creature like that, I think oftentimes it's easy to say that you've seen something odd, and then folklore starts to happen, and you sort of, assign it to this being, that is mysterious and eats, other animals and things like that. So it's
of course. But of course, with the chupacabra, though, there was the fact that originally, I don't think they saw an animal. But there was the report of the corpses of these goats that have been drained, and of course, it showed up the once, and then it, or twice when it was first reported, and then it started to spread from Puerto Rico with this island, and like it came into like Mexico, into the mainland USA. And so now it's like all over, kind of more in the southern areas of the USA, but still, it's just a strange thing. It's supposed to be, I guess the original description of it was that it was around 3 feet high, and it was bipedal, so it walked on its hind legs mainly. And it ran in a weird hopping kind of fashion. It had large black eyes and bony fingers on each hand, and overly long arms and legs. And then apparently like maybe some feathers on its back or something like that. So it's very strange, kind of a chimera kind of thing. It sounds like a lot of different creatures, but who knows? It's we don't know what it is, but there was 1995. These events happened, and this new cryptid legend was born, and it's stuck around, and it's pun intended, it's really sunk its teeth into our cryptid culture.
That's right,
and cryptozoology and stuff like that. So,
that's right.
Whether is it a new creature, or is it a new newly discovered thing? We don't know, but it is definitely fastened itself into our collective zeitgeist, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So happy anniversary, Chupacabra.
Yeah. That's cool. Hey, that's a nice t-shirt you got on there.
Oh, thanks, dude. It's brand new. Do you like that? It's one of the official What's Your Weird Story t-shirts.
Where'd you get that?
It's funny that you ask. I just got it off the brand new Spreadshirt.com site for the What's Your Weird Story podcast. There's no www. You just go straight to shop.spreadshirt.com/what's without the apostrophe WHATS hyphen YER WEIRD-STORY, and that'll take you right there.
I mean, you can never own enough clothing.
Well, it's true, Barry. There's t-shirts for the ladies, because they're cut differently. There's hoodies, which are really cool. There's 2 different kinds of hoodies, and there's also tote bags, so you can tote your stuff.
That's so cool, man.
So if you guys go out to spreadshirt.com, What's Your Weird Story, currently there are 2 designs, but there will be more going up very soon, so just keep your eyes out for that. And if you decide to get one of our shirts, tag yourself on Instagram to ours or Facebook. Show your love. Show us what you got. Let's see your true colors.
Well, I've got a story here from mysteriousuniverse.org about a wolf man accused of terrorizing a Mexican town during the lockdown. And this is in Coita, Mexico. There's some reports of a wolf man or a werewolf that had been going through town, terrifying the residents there for a few days. It says those who allegedly seen the werewolf claim that he is 2 meters tall and has great agility. And one of the neighbors says that he could see this being jump 3 meters high and jump a fence. That's pretty wild.
That is wild.
And again, I think that, Latin America, again, with another cryptid story of 2020. It's, again, I think we like to, oftentimes I think, especially when it comes to these things, these odd, weird animals, we hear, like, I know that where I live, we can hear coyotes at night, and they make some crazy noises, man. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes sounds like a baby crying or something. So, sometimes when you can't see something, you obviously go toward these wild ideas, and not saying that they don't exist, but there's a lot of things out there in the wild that do pretty remarkable things vocally and make weird sounds,
Yeah. Well, look at there's any number of birds that are, that can mimic any, like, such crazy sounds. There was one that I saw some video of where it could make the sound of a camera lens going off.
Oh, wow.
It could do the sound of the beeping of a big machine backing up.
Yeah. Wow.
And it also did a chainsaw from that foresters were using, and they sound amazingly like realistic. And it's like, it's so crazy that the bird can formulate its beak and tongue in I guess vocal cords or whatever to do that, you know, and as evolution is in that aspect, and that I don't know if it obviously it doesn't know exactly what it is, but it's making some kind of sound. Yeah, I guess in hopes of reproducing with whatever that is. But or maybe it's just bored. Who knows? But yeah, you're right. Like there are these wild animals can make. And even domestic animals can make weird sounds. Like, you hear cats, do weird stuff. There's that one meme that popped up this year with that cat that sounds obviously distressed. And it sounds like it's wow, 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 no, almost like it's saying no, no, no. But, it's making this strange.
That's right.
And I'm sure almost everybody's seen that on, but like, so it's, I don't know, man. But going back to the werewolf, I mean, it's I always love a good werewolf story, and you hear a lot of them in Latin America, or Central America, and so I don't know. I know that there's a psychological disease or condition where people think that they're lycanthropes. They think that they're werewolves. Right. And they think that they change at the full moon, Yeah. Which is, it's sad, but it's fascinating. Yeah. There's that. And of course, there's tons of stories about werewolves in Europe. There's famous French time period where they're in France, where I think it was around 80 to 100 years where there was the spat of werewolf murders and investigations and stuff like that. Of course, they were like in their werewolf were not like Hollywood werewolf where it's part wolf and part man, but it was a man who turned into a werewolf. And our friends at the Most Excellent podcast, they did a episode where they talked about one of the more famous stories in that of a Frenchman who got a belt from the devil that turned him into a wolf. Wow. But there's also that condition that where people grow hair all over their body, basically.
I was going to bring that up. Those two brothers from Mexico, a few years ago.
Yep. Yeah. There's famously, and of course they were always, charted back in when there were, freak shows with the circus and sideshows and stuff like that. They would always have a wolf boy, And it was always, one of these, somebody who suffered from this condition of having hair all over their bodies.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's in itself. Yeah.
Unfortunate set of genetics, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's just it is strange how it just pops up randomly, but in some families it still happens, and it still does happen.
Right.
Where somebody is born with this condition, and I can't, for the life of me, I can't think of it. I apologize for any of our listeners who are hardcore, everything's super scientific, but we're not about that. We're about stories.
Right.
So
there was a guy I saw on, I think it was on YouTube. I came across a story of this giant who was from Mexico. Again, all these stories coming from Mexico, but he was a giant. He was a big man, but his head was humongous, man. And it looked like if you were to draw a giant, like a cartoon version or, something of a giant, this guy fit it. I mean, it was amazing what he looked like. But also when he spoke, the lowest timbre voice I'd ever heard. I mean, it's deep. It's very, very deep. And it was just like, I was just watching this thinking, if this were back in the 1500s or something like that, this guy would have been like folklore, like, news back then. I mean, it would have been like, there's this creature that, he's a human, but he's like huge, and he's a giant. And, it's just, it's interesting. I love the stories that we get on these subjects, because it's like the perfect combination of human imagination. Not saying that these things don't exist, because weirder things have happened. And we've come across, like, apparently there's a new whale species that I saw recently that we just came across that we didn't know is some beaked whale. So I'm not saying that weird shit like this doesn't exist, but the human imagination, along with oddities that we find in nature, are just, it's the perfect recipe for this stuff, and also, I'm thinking about Bigfoot and some of the stories that you see on that. I recently watched the Les Stroud again. He's been reposting this stuff on YouTube, on his YouTube channel he did like a 8-part series on Bigfoot where he goes up in the Canadian wilderness and hunts for Bigfoot with this guy who's got video footage of finding a Bigfoot family. And oddly enough, I mean, when you look at the footage, I kind of think it's bullshit, but when you look at the picture of the Bigfoot kind of looks like the Wolf Boy, or, from Mexico, those brothers, like they hair all over their face and stuff. And but I don't know. It's fun. It's fun to look at and read the stories and stuff like that. And, I still think, maybe at some point we'll come across that, because Bigfoot did exist at one point in time. These creatures did exist. Whether or not they're still out there is yet to be seen, but I like to think that they might exist somewhere in a parallel universe, maybe, and they come here,
Yep. Well, speaking of Bigfoot, here's another story from mysteriousuniverse.org. And they are, that's a great website for all of this kind of stuff that we like. And also a great podcast. They've been podcasting for, I don't know, over probably over 10 years, probably, 12 or maybe even 15. But like, they're one of the first podcasts that I ever listened to. Here's a story about a Yowie in the outback area. I think it's in the outback area of Australia. So, and they took the post from the Tablelands Yowie Sightings Facebook page. So basically, this guy goes on and he posts, quote, and I'm going to try to do an Australian accent here. which is going to be terrible. And if anybody listening in Australia, I hope that you find this humorous and not insulting. But I'll do. It's going to probably sound more English than Australian, but I'm going to try. So I'll channel my innermost Crocodile Dundee, Paul Hogan. May he rest in peace. I think he's still alive, but still, wherever he is, I hope he is peacefully resting during the COVID era, if he is. Because I actually think there's supposed to be a new Crocodile Dundee movie coming out.
Wow.
Which that's in itself is a weird story. But, all right, so this guy says, and I don't think he was identified, or at least I can't find it, but, quote, here's a mate who loves bushwalking found these. This is horrible. I apologize. A mate who loves bushwalking found these out west near the Ainsley River. I think I'm getting better.
Yeah.
The fresh poo carefully placed on a broken termite mound. Whatever did this decided to break the termite mound and poo on it. No animal I know of would/could do that. Also, the poo looks nothing like pig, roo, emu, etc.
Nice.
Okay.
That wasn't too bad, dude. That wasn't too bad at all. Australian accent is one of the hardest things to do.
It really is. It really is.
Because everything gets kind of caught back in the throat, which is different than the British. And
there's a way that it kind of done, you know?
Australia has some weird fucking creatures, man.
Well, that we know of.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
Obviously, like kangaroos and platypus and koalas and all that stuff. Everything there that, you know, is poisonous and trying to kill you.
Yep.
And they're massive, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, so we know that.
It's just like,
but
it's
the yowie is.
Yeah.
The yowie is the Australian version of, or closest proximity version of a Bigfoot.
Right. Yeah. And then what is the what's the Siberian one? What is that one called? That one is
Yeti.
Yeti. Yeah, Yeti. Yeti, Yowie, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. So
Abominable Snowman was another name for the Yeti.
Right. Right.
I always loved that. When I was little, I always loved Abominable because it just the word abominable is just not used enough. At all anymore.
Absolutely.
But I always loved that, and of course, that gave us the Bumble in the Rudolph.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
animated.
And who doesn't love that? Huh?
The Bumble's great.
Oh, dude,
Bumble's great.
I mean, the whole thing, the whole animation was great. But
classic still frame.
Yeah.
Shot per shot. Beautiful stuff.
So good.
Rankin and Bask.
So good.
So this term, the area, the tablelands refers to the Atherton tablelands, a fertile plateau covering 64,768 square kilometers. That's 25,000 square miles. And it includes the cities of Mariba and Atherton and small towns. And it is, it's, I guess, in northern Australia, but I could be wrong. Oh, here's some more quotes. I get to do the voice again.
Cool.
All right. And I'm quoting the unknown citer or reporter. So I'm also going to take a drink real quick to make sure that this is nice and fluid.
Of course.
Being fairly fresh, my mate, who was all alone, that was bad, who was all alone, knew whatever did this was not far away. Walking on, he started to feel as if something was watching him. Not far from that, he came across the railway sleepers in a tree. And I'll explain what the railway sleepers are. I know people often see tree limbs placed oddly up in the trees and suspect Yowie activity, but limbs can fall from above naturally. A bloody, heavy railway sleeper in a tree ain't natural. Once my mate saw this, he knew he was not alone, and had the ominous feeling he wasn't welcome. So railway sleeper is what they call railway ties, railroad ties.
Okay.
You know, and those things are big and heavy, but apparently Yowies can get up to 12 feet tall. So, you know, picking up a railway tie or a sleeper would not be a big as issue as it would be for, you know, a man half that size, which is still 6 foot tall. And,
that's wild. Well, you know, too, Australia is a big country. And
it's huge. It's continent.
Yeah, and a lot of it is uninhabitable, or people. Not very many people live out in it because it's desertish, desert-like, and it'd be a hard living. So there could very well be stuff out there that we haven't seen. I mean, that wouldn't be far from the truth, you know. Wild, man.
Yeah.
Well, we apologize to our Australian listeners if we offended you. We're just having fun here.
yeah, and apparently I'm going to do a little bit more because I found out more quotes. So
cool.
He cut the trek short and headed back towards civilization, but he felt the exact moment that, quote, being watched, in quote, sensation stopped. Several hours later, back in Ainsley pub, he knocked down a couple of rums to calm down and told John the publican, which I guess is the bartender, told John the publican what he'd seen and felt. John wasn't surprised and shared some other similar stories of the area. So apparently this is an area that had other Yowie stories, but mainly the funny thing about this is that I don't know if you've seen these termite mounds, but they build these large structures. They almost kind of look like stalactites or stalagmites.
Yeah.
Coming up, or tree stumps, you know, like a dead rot tree stump, and they're mud and they're super tough.
Yeah.
And so to break one, you would probably need like a baseball bat or something, or super strength or something like that. But apparently some Yowie decided that he was just going to go and take a dump on. He's going to break it off and take a dump on it like it was a toilet or something, man.
Oh,
which is
great.
A strange activity. And the guy, apparently the guy who saw it knew that it wasn't people poop, and it wasn't pig or or kangaroo or emu or any other thing. So it had to be some pretty big turds.
Yeah. Oh, huge. You know, I can imagine.
For comparatively.
Right.
And apparently it was still fresh. So I wonder if you saw it or smelled it first.
That is hilarious, man. That's a hell of a story.
What? Who's that? Oh, Bobby's here, our resident Reddit weirdo, I should say, and special correspondent. Bobby, she just pulled up in the radio station parking lot of Weirdsville and the What's Your Weird Story podcast, internet radio sensation. Working on my hype there. Hey, Bobby, thank you for joining us. Go ahead, make yourself comfortable. Sit down, put on your headphones there, approach the mic, and warm your voice up. And while you do that, and join us in our conversation of all this weird news from 2020, let me tell you about this interesting story. Okay, so here's a story that was reported on from Reuters, and it was reported on September 10, 2020. And the headline is thus: Belgian city finds its former mayor's heart in a fountain. So apparently this mayor, whose name was Pierre David, he was the first mayor of this Belgian city. that it's in Verviers, Verviers, in Belgium. He was the first city mayor, and there had been this myth, the urban legend, that he was, or his heart was buried in a fountain that was like his, a monument to him.
Okay.
They built this fountain in the center, and so the fountain was built in 1883, but David had died while in office in 1839. Okay. So, there's just kind of this weird kind of thing, what's going on. And, this guy who was back in the 1800s, the first mayor, he served from 1800 to 1808. When Belgium was under French rule, and then he had a second stint when Belgium was an independent country from 1830 to his death in 1839. And this urban legend had been going on for, close to, 200 years now.
Wow.
Well, actually, I guess not close to 200 years. 150 years. Anyway, a long freaking time.
Yeah.
So they're doing some repairs on this fountain. They're digging it, and they find a small metal box, and they open it up, and it contained Pierre David's heart in an ethanol filled jar.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's like, you can do that. Like, I have a lot of dead animals in a jar like that.
Wow.
So they found it how many years after he died?
Well, he died in 1839, and the fountain was built started to be built in 1883. So his heart had to be put in.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So with the family's permission, his heart was placed under the stone in the monument in 1883.
Wow.
And then and then I guess everybody's kind of like forgot or became part of a local legend, and so everybody, his heart's in the city, and then there it actually was.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
That is wild, man.
Did they leave it there? Like, or did they take it out and put it somewhere?
I believe they took it out and put it in a museum, probably, but but I'm not sure. I should have. Yeah, it's on display in the Museum of Fine Arts and Ceramics.
Okay.
Can you see a picture of it?
I don't see a picture of the thing itself, but I'm sure if you look online.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be returned to the fountain at some point.
Oh, that's
once the renovations are complete.
That's good. I like that.
That's wholesome.
Yeah.
That's a wholesome. Yes, exactly. Very wholesome.
Yeah. I don't like when they go in and they take stuff, and I mean, I get why they do it, to preserve things, but something like that's, it was meant to be there, and it's preserved in a way where I don't know what kind of if it'll last forever, but I like the sentiment of it. It's a cool story and a bizarre story. I don't think we would be doing that today.
Well, you never know, man, because think about this. When you currently have an option of hey Minnie, sorry, my cat came up to say hi. You have the option of burying yourself in a pod that will sprout up into a tree.
That's true.
That's
true. Yeah,
who knows? I don't know, man. It would take there would be more, I think, more red tape to cut to get that done. Right. But I think it could happen. It's just, where it would happen to be, depending on how easy it would be and who it was as well.
You know what I want? Do what?
No, you go. What?
I was going to say, I've been talking about this with my wife lately, because you talk about these things when you get older, and you think about, dying, and I want to be cremated. I guess I want to be cremated. I never really wanted to be cremated before, but that's what my wife wants. So I'm like, well, why do I need a physical shell of myself here, I guess I'll be cremated too. But I'm like, I want part of myself to be launched into outer space. You know?
Yes, you can.
I know.
You
I know.
Any particular part?
Right now, you can, some of your DNA, you just send it. They'll launch it into space.
Okay.
It's a real, I saw it on Instagram.
I saw
it's like an ad.
Yeah, I want that, man. I don't know what part, man. Maybe my heart, Adam.
Okay.
That would be cool.
Okay.
But I know this.
It would freeze out there.
I know, but I do know this. Because I had a friend who recently had a loved one cremated. I don't know that they would remove an organ and set it aside for you. I don't know.
You have to plan that with your wife.
Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah,
and the coroner.
That's got to be expensive, man. You know, I mean, you know, the box that they burn you in is like the cheapest box you can get, which is literally just a box, is like $350, man.
Dude, yeah. Well, you know, the cheapest box they bury you in is probably $3,000.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
true.
So, I mean, if you're thinking about, cost and all that stuff.
I know. But
$350 to burn your ass is pretty good.
I know, I guess.
Can you pick what kind of tree? Like, could you be like a fruiting tree, and then your family could eat you until?
I think so. Oh God, that'd be so weird. That'd be so weird, man.
This was last week. I don't know exactly what day though, but I think it was Thursday, which would have been. Let me pull up my calendar. What is today? Oh God, the 13th. So around the 10th, I guess. This Iranian official, and I wasn't sure like what his official title was, but I think I found that here. But he actually worked as a it wasn't like a space force. Do you know what they call it there?
No.
Oh. Well, he was a government official, and the tweet said, it might have been two separated out, but essentially that aliens were already here. We were already working with them. The U.S. government and the Iranian government were working with them. And they made a deal recently with Donald Trump for him not to tweet about them because they said that we were not ready for the technology or whatever. And it's
Hold
hard
on.
to... Uh-huh.
I think, is it this? Is it Iran or is it Israel? Yeah, it's
Iran,
Israel.
but there is Israel.
Oh, there's a different story.
Yeah, so I looked it up just because I was curious. But what did you find, though? What's that?
I found a story that says and Israel's former space chief says that the U.S. is working with aliens on Mars.
Huh. Okay. I think that is... Does that one talk about the Galactic Federation?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it is two then. And one of them... Because he doesn't mention Trump, does he? I think it was Iran who mentioned Trump. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this is the one... So for that one, it says, former space security chief of Israel says aliens exist and that a Galactic Federation has been in contact with Israel and the U.S. for years, but are avoiding revealing themselves to the public because humanity is not ready. So I think I put those two together. The other one was Trump, when they mentioned Trump.
Well, they mentioned in this one, they said that, again, it's basically, they mentioned to Trump not to say anything about it because the aliens did, because of mass hysteria. But, I mean, honestly,
who knows? In
my opinion, that if aliens contacted Trump, Trump would be all about it, saying that it was him, that he was the first president
to be
was contacted by the aliens, and he was the first that. He would claim every bit because he claims makes a lot of claims about a lot of things. We'll just say it that way. Not trying to get too political.
Yeah. But, this wasn't him though. This was, and I wanted to find out more about it. So I think I sent you the screenshot from that, but I Googled Israel and Iran stories. And they went all the way back to like 2010, 2014. And the weirdest one I saw, let me see if I can grab that, was saying that so I believe it was Israel. Maybe it was Iran. Hold on, let me grab this one again. They downed. Okay. So basically, this one was Iran, that we had a drone out there that we were flying around, and Iran had a spaceship that like knocked the drone down, and that they were holding on to the drone themselves. And some official in the U.S. like made a joke about it and was like, tell them to give us our laser beams back or something. I don't know. But they like essentially saying they were crazy.
Right.
But the reason why all of this is so crazy to me this year, and all of the stories and weird tweets and weird things that have come out about aliens and UFOs, is that all of these things have already been discussed.
Aliens and UFOs popping off.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Off. But all of these things have already, for one, it's government officials and even our government admitting these things now. And when you look back, all of these same stories have been told for years, like 20 years. And now it's like, well, I guess it's true. Like and they get crazier and crazier, the stories, but they're also more believable now. And it's weird. It's weird to like wrap your head around. And I think you mentioned this earlier, Barry, like why are they admitting it now?
Right. I'm very skeptical of governments across the board taking positions on things and putting things out that are public, because I wonder what the end result they're looking for, like what the end game is here for them. It's so strange that Iran, somebody who we've had such a checkered past with, would say something like this.
Was it the Iranians or was it the Israeli? But there was one that said that our government was run by the tall whites.
Oh, that's
tall white. Okay. Yeah. So, which is in alien lore, there are lots of different races of aliens that interact with Earth. And everybody's kind of got different ideas of their of the hierarchy of these races, or who's really doing what. You know, there's the reptilians are bad, but some people are like, no, everybody thinks that, but they're good. And then there's the the tall whites that were here to help us, but the Nordic type people or whatever, and then the Greys. Of course, some say that the Greys are an entire race themselves. Some people say that they're basically biological robots. All this stuff, all these different stories. Nobody can specifically confirm one thing or another, because we don't have we have stories, but we don't have like evidence, mass evidence of revealed truth. So we don't know what there is. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it is extremely unusual that we have had all of these kinds of stories since Roswell, really, from leaks and stuff like that. But now we're getting more substantial leaks, and we're getting more substantial stories, and we're getting the repeat of stuff. So maybe that is something there's some kernels of truth in this, or maybe it also could be some kind of propaganda,
disinformation.
So, right.
That's what I mean is like, it's like you don't know what's true and what's not. Now we see the videos, we see the pictures of all the crazy shit that's, all the crazy stuff that's flying around out there. They can't they can't really say, I mean, they know that it's obviously technology that we don't have. Where is it coming from? Who is behind it all? What I worry about is that our government hasn't had a great track record when it comes to, not, what is that saying about don't let a good crisis go to waste, right? Yeah. Right. So it's like, are they fabricating this? Are they putting this stuff out there in order to, not to get too conspiracy-like, but are they trying to use this in a way for controlling purposes? Are they coming clean on this because, they had to, because of the freedom of information? Because they had to declassify some information, and we had, of course, Tom DeLonge that was, had the videos, and he was going to release them anyway. So it's like they got to take a position on it. I don't know. And I think that's one of the things that is just so fascinating about the story is I believe that there are beings out there that are far beyond where we're at currently, because I just believe the universe is too big, and we don't know enough about it. And I think that if there was, and that goes back to the way that, some of our, physicists and guys that do this for a living and, look into these things, the universe and laws and how it all works. Some of them have said that they believe if there are aliens, it would not be good for the human race, because they would come and try to exploit us. But at the same time, if we believe what we're seeing, they're already here and they haven't. Maybe they've infiltrated us in ways that we don't know.
Yeah.
As far as the common man, maybe they've done some things and put some wheels into motion that have gotten us to where we're at. It's awfully strange that our technology, if you start looking back in time, it's not until the last, like the industrial age is really when shit started to get ramp up and just multiply.
Well, that's when we really first started hearing about stuff like that anyway, right? Like around that time is when...
You say that,
yeah,
but there's always been these weird things in the sky that people have seen and talked about throughout time.
Yeah, the Egyptians, even cave writings they see, like Native American, there's Native American cave drawings of like these weird things in the sky and shit like that.
Oh, I've seen those.
Mm-hmm. But
yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, and that's the mystery of it all. It's odd that I can drive down the road in the middle of the day now and think to myself, fucking aliens are probably real.
Yeah.
Like that was just a fact, a thing that you would think about and go, well, there's no proof. But now.
That's why I believe it more than anything else, is because it's not because the government is saying it now. It's because for so long, people have died for saying things like this.
Yeah. Right.
They've been ridiculed. They've lost their families. They've lost like everything. So at some point they were trying to cover it up.
Right.
So I don't think it's, and I would normally go straight to conspiracy because I don't trust the government whatsoever.
Right. Yep.
But
we've kind of been programmed into that thinking because of that, because
we thought it's real and they're covering it up.
Right. Mm-hmm. And because, people who do believe in these things or had these experiences are often mocked publicly or, and of course, which is why we do this show all together. So people can talk about the weird shit that's happened to them in their lives.
But then why?
And not feel.
Yeah. Why come clean now? I mean, that's the question, right?
Well, I think it's, I don't know. There's all sorts of leaks. Like, here's another story from this week with the, there was it's a photograph that was taken in the Atlantic in 2018 by a pilot in an F-A-18, likely because they can't quite say it, but it's a government photo and it shows the quote motionless cube-shaped UFO. And that's another one that all of these stories apparently came out on December 8th. So something was, maybe we need to go and look at what else was happening on December 8th, or, it's coincidentally that all these stories came out on December 8th or something, Yeah. But
this I think this falls in line with something that happened in Texas, actually. Let's see if I can find that. So there were these lights on a rooftop in Texas. And apparently this legend has been there forever, but something about hold on, let me see if I can find the town exactly.
Marfa?
It's no, but that's cool too.
What did you say?
No, this one
was it what?
Marfa, the Marfa light.
Marfa.
Oh, okay.
No, this one. So this was actually published on December 11th, so 2 days ago, in Texas. It's like a local news outlet there, and it says, Texas ain't ready for extraterrestrial reveal, scientist says. He's obviously never been here. There is a legend out there that there was a cigar-shaped UFO that flew into a windmill. The air, you know what I'm talking about. Flew into it and crashed.
That's an old one too. That goes from like the 1860s, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the flying. All the ones that are flying cigar shaped, especially in right. Yep. That's old. That's like 19th century, late 19th century. You know, that's the stuff that were before World War I, before the 1900s, before all that stuff. That's those.
Do you think
what we're seeing predominantly in that era?
Do you think that has to do with the connotation of like Zeppelins and shit like that? Like,
It's quite possible, especially out west where people wouldn't have seen Zeppelins as much, but that is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, interesting.
There's a so the I guess they had like a grave marker there for this, and I guess it's in Aurora.
Yeah.
So the town elders they said they buried an extraterrestrial body at the cemetery. And in 2018, a Dallas attorney offered $1,000 for the return of the alien's grave marker because it had been stolen.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
Damn.
There's all sorts. That's a great story to look into, but
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No, sorry.
Oh, well, I just been thinking about, like, I think people's ideas of UFOs and aliens have evolved to become more of a about evolution. So, about these aliens being us in the future, and that's why they're not attacking us, because they care about us, they want us to survive.
That could be, yeah.
And it makes sense with, because, anytime you sit down and you watch any kind of documentary or read anything about aliens, you start to try and rationalize it. And so that's when I started looking up, you can look up like what scientists say humans will look like in the future, in hundreds of years, and then compare us to what we looked like when we were hardly humans yet.
Right.
And no matter what you see is that we're skinnier, our heads are bigger, our eyes are bigger, and I don't know about our skin, but we're losing hair, our skin's exposed, it's thinner.
Yes.
So it makes sense and then it also makes sense that there would be different races of us, just like there would be different races of aliens, because there's different races of humans.
Right.
So I don't know like why they're saying it now or why they're admitting it now, but I think at some point the information becomes too difficult to deny, and they have to embrace it like begrudgingly, know?
Right.
And so then they probably, 100% sure they will take advantage of it. Once they realize they have to, they're going to find a way to manipulate it and use it.
Right.
And put it back in their control.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, man. 2020, dude.
Yeah.
What can you say?
I can't wait for 2021. Yeah. It's going to make a 2021 be very interesting. I can't wait to see what else we find out, for sure. Wow.
I just, I don't know. I always, I'm really interested in history and time and all that. But more than anything, I think this is the first time, unless we're talking about video games, it's like the first time that I've been really excited that I'm alive now.
Right.
That I can, here for this. Because it's stuff that, I was excited about as a kid, like conspiracies and aliens. And, that was, my whole childhood and high school. And then I grew up and I was like, well, shit, I guess I went through a phase where I was like, nothing's real.
Right.
It'll be a shift. It's such a monumental thing that it will change the course of humanity.
Yes. And that's...
Or has changed the course of humanity, and we're just living in that pivotal moment.
Yeah, right.
Right, but still, the actual revelation of yes, we acknowledge that publicly for everybody, this is the truth of it, the matter. There are these much more advanced than us, life forms on other planets, and it is fundamentally going to change everything for us, and there will be a large section of the population that is just going to freak out and not be able to handle it, and that's again, that's why we are beings. I think maybe there could be testing the water, continually desensitizing us and testing the water and kind of spoon feeding us, getting us used to it.
Right.
But, to see if, are we quite ready yet? Nah, not just yet. So we still got, a long way to go. So
Interesting.
Hey everybody, you're listening to the What's Your Weird Story podcast. You probably knew that already because you're listening or downloaded to the episode off of your iTunes or your Spotify or whatever place you get your podcast from. We want to thank you for listening. We also want to remind you to like us, follow us, subscribe to us, make sure that you get your new podcast episode every week. We'd also like to ask you to rate and review so that we can grow our audience, we can have more friends, we can have more stories. So thanks for listening to What's Your Weird Story.
Hey, thanks, Bobby, for coming by. We appreciate it. It was cool to have her come on this year, and she's brought us such cool stories over the years. So it's nice to have her on the year-end episode. Yeah,
it's always fun when Bobby stops by. We always have these great, long, meandering conversations that we ultimately have to cut out of the episode because there's just so much of it. But it's always fun talking with Bobby and having her stop by. Thanks again, Bobby. Happy New Year. And we'll be seeing you soon. So back to the weird news.
What was that weird video you sent to me, man?
Oh, yeah. Good one. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, it's that Instagram.
All right. So here is another cryptid story. This one is from Iceland, and I found this on the Reykjavik Grapevine website, which I guess maybe it's a newspaper, maybe it's not. But anyway, a video was posted on the Instagram account of Icelandic rapper. I'm going to try this, so bear with me. Higdis Hauser Harold. Let me try this again. Dottir, aka Fever Dream Official. That's her Instagram account if you want to go and take a look at it. But anyway, so there's this video of kind of like from a cliff, right? And it is it's looking from here you can listen to the sound of by a waterfall. And as you're looking, there's something down on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's like this black and kind of shiny. And it zooms in on the waterfall because apparently they didn't see it at first. And then they go back out. So then it goes in. It's kind of in the middle at first. And it looks like, I don't know, something's moving around. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it looks like the head of something, but it's a weird head.
Right. And it's all kind of like I said, like shiny black. And then you can see, it's weird, moving in a weird way, and kind of like bobbing.
Yeah.
But so anyway, Fever Dream Official. This is the quote from her Instagram. This is what she said. I can't do an Icelandic accent, so everybody be thankful for that.
Yeah.
Actually, I do some Icelandic people, but I'm not even going to try there. I don't have the lilting and beautifully. I don't have a beautiful voice just like that. So, because everybody in Iceland seems to be like just gorgeous people. So.
Oh yeah.
I need to go there because then by contrast with me being like not, blonde and gorgeous, I will be a spectacle. And then by that, I will be a beautiful oddity, right?
Yeah.
And so then all the beautiful women will flock to me.
Yeah, you'll be exotic.
That's the logic.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So this is what Fever Dream Official posted, said in the initial post. Feeling like this creepy video that I posted on my story needs an answer. Shot on the cliff of Dettifoss Island, Iceland, close to the capital city of elves, Asbyrgi. That's Asbyrgi. No people in front of us, only a cliff so steep it could not carry anyone. So I guess it was really steep, and so nobody can be there on hanging off or whatever. We even went too far in my taste. So there, and it's up close. And it is a scary looking waterfall and scary looking cliff.
Yeah.
I then noticed much later this little creature in my video, and then a head popping up in the end, looking like the girl from The Ring. And then there's this laughing, crying, smiley face emoji. No drones, no birds, no plastic bags. What is it? I'm not crazy, right? It looks hella whack.
Yeah, it's wild. It is wild.
And I saw this before, and I completely forgot about it. Because at first I wrote it, I was like, that does look like... It looks like something kind of bobbing in water.
Yeah.
But it's off of the cliff. It's not in a pool of water.
Yeah, and it's at the top of the waterfall.
Yeah. And it's got a wet look. But the thing that's really strange to me is the very last bit at the end.
You see the head come up a little bit?
See the head, yeah. And that looks much more like wet hair.
Right.
God, that's so freaky.
It is weird. It is weird. It's pretty cool.
And so Iceland is full of wonder, and there a lot of like very traditional beliefs,
right?
Where they'll and like beliefs in like gnomes and like fairy folk and stuff like that. And even if, the people don't necessarily believe they're real, they still respect the kind of traditions and stuff. And they'll like alter the course of roads around stones that are supposed to be where, like gnomes live, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
cool. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool to look at either way. Yeah.
Yeah. So check that out. Fever Dream Official, and find that video. That was from, I think that was, August.
Okay.
But I let's see. August 12th, Fever Dream Official.
Cool.
So check that out. I don't know what Fever Dream's Icelandic rap sounds like, but I don't there's a great Icelandic band called Sigur Rós.
Yeah.
That everybody should check out. It's very beautiful, amazing music. I always describe it as cloud soaring music.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful.
And
wonderful.
Check that out. They, they're big. But anyway, was it Bjork? Bjork's from Iceland too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
So.
Yep. And
maybe that's Bjork down there on that water.
It could be.
That cliff. That dark hair like Bjork.
Yep.
She's always singing about stuff like throwing stuff off cliffs and stuff.
Right.
So could have been Bjork.
Was she? Was she in the Sugar Babies? Was that her?
Sugar Cubes.
Sugar Cubes, right?
Yeah. Sugar Cubes. Yeah. And she also had that was where her first kind of international renown, or at least notoriety, became out of Sugar Cubes a little bit in the college rock days when the college radio was where you would find the late 80s,
right,
early 90s, before alternative, right, predating the alternative stuff of the mid 90s. But yeah, the Sugar Cubes' Birthday was one of their biggest, probably most well-known hit off of that. But she also did, she had been singing professionally for probably 10 years or so at that point. She started as a very young girl.
Yeah.
And she did Sugar Cube stuff, and then she did, she had a big band record out at one point.
Yeah, man.
And then
that's right.
And that was the earlier one, and then she went a solo and became, this huge
she's
alien pop star.
Yeah, she's great. She's so cute too.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, she is. And but I heard she's a little bit on the
nutty side. I know, dude. I got on this.
Would be, I mean, it explains a lot. Like, creative people are not necessarily the most, even keeled all the time.
Right.
And she is very creative and very and I mean, even gotten to stuff like, I need to go back and listen to some more of her middle and later music, because I kind of didn't do anything for me at the time, because I really enjoyed her first 2 solo albums, Debut and Post. But I need to go explore those more. So
yeah, I got on a YouTube kick where I started to just watch her freak out on people.
There's that famous one where she's with her in the airport.
Yes.
And, kid is with her.
Yeah.
She freaks out on the reporter.
Yeah, she starts freaking out. But she's so cute and so dainty, and then to see her just freak the fuck out is pretty fun. So anyway. Which,
again, supports my theory that she is some kind of a fairy cryptid creature. Bjork is a cryptid. 2020, that's the news. Bjork is a cryptid. So.
Awesome.
Okay, so here is another story out of the UK, and this was reported in October. Again, we got it from Mysterious Universe, and it's a big cat tracker says the UK has populations of leopards and pumas that are there in the wild and breeding. And that's pretty crazy, because those are, neither one of those are native to those islands.
No,
in fact, I don't think there's any native big cat to the English Isles or to the United Kingdom Isles.
I wouldn't think.
I mean, there's little cats, of course.
Right. Unless somehow somebody brought a couple over. I don't know.
Well, that's how. That's somehow, because you always hear stories about animals escaping from, circuses or zoos or personal zoos and stuff like that. So, but this tracker says that, he's been tracking there for a while, and I guess he knows the difference between their, the markings that each cat leaves. And there's a long tradition of big cats, mainly black cats, like panther or black puma or something like that. But there's been a long tradition of those kinds of stories in the UK that go way back. And those are here as well in the States. I don't know if there's a supernatural element to them. Sometimes I suppose there is in the stories, but I don't know if that is, consistent throughout or what. But I mean, well, I was just going to say, I know in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Wildlife Department claims that there's no big cats, outside of bobcats in this part of the world, but that's absolutely false. Mountain lions are, they are down here, man. And, but they don't want, the wildlife, department doesn't want to get into all that, I think, because they'd be worried about people freaking out, especially, folks that are out hunting and things like that. But they are definitely around, and there's been reports of them all over the place. So that's a little bit different in a country so big as ours that, a cat, Colorado is not that far away. And I'm sure that they come down through there, New Mexico,
And there's plenty of livestock for them to live off of.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, we do have big cats in in our country, in up north, and going down to South America, all of it, the entire continent. But of course, England, or the UK rather, being an island off to its own, it's that I don't believe that it actually has any kind of big cats in its history. So, but like I said, you do hear stories of these mysterious big cats and black cats. Big black cats, panthers, or whatever they are, all over. And my nephew told me one time where he and his brother were out fishing with their dad, and they saw off in the distance a big black cat that looked like, he said it looked like a panther.
Right.
And, I mean, he's got no reason to make that up. And he knows the difference between a cat.
Right.
And something that's bigger, so
yeah.
So who knows, man?
Yeah, dude.
I mean, it seems very logical.
Yeah,
that this could be happening.
And those big cats are very good at hiding, and they're very good at stalking and killing their prey. So, if they are out there, very, very, likely that they could live for a long time. That's one of the things that, like in South America, you hear a lot about those Black Panthers and stuff, and they always say to beware if you see signs of Black Panthers, because they come at night, and they they're very hard to detect. So
yeah,
but yeah, man, it's crazy. Beautiful animals, man. Golly, beautiful animals.
Yeah, definitely beautiful, graceful.
Yeah.
And of course, as earlier as I got not attacked, but inadvertently mauled by my small cat. Here,
I always
cats are unpredictable.
I always think about that news footage of the guy that's like, he's like the animal shelter guy, and he's given the news thing, and the cat gets wrapped around his leg and just goes in on him, and he starts freaking yelling and screaming. It's so funny, dude.
Oh man, that's a classic one. So meow. We didn't get a lot of, or at least I couldn't find a lot of reported ghost stories in the news this year. And maybe I'm looking at the wrong places. I'm not a professional researcher, and we are doing a very precursory kind of like search for stories for you guys, but not a lot of them there. And I think that it is because it's so much harder to provide evidence for ghost stories and stuff. And of course, there's way more programs dedicated on television and dedicated to ghosts and following ghosts and stuff like that. And I guess it's just not. I guess it's not newsworthy as far as, obviously mainstream or even quasi-mainstream media goes, because of the nature of it. Right. Because it is, it delves away from perceived real worldness, or, and it's often, it's all accounts, and again, not like, there's to my knowledge, there's no ghost poop like was with the Yeti story we had earlier. So it is more difficult and to confirm or to share these stories, but I guess it's also kind of, maybe it's out of fashion to report them as well. Yeah, I think here in 2020.
Yeah, I think so. It's become kind of old hat at this point, because of all the ghost shows and stuff, and I think people kind of tune into those, and so maybe some of the newer stuff doesn't get reported. And also, I think a lot of those shows based their stories around pretty well known haunts and stuff, because you're making a TV show, so you got to get the goods, and so maybe that's part of it too. But we always still love those ghost stories, and love to read about them. And I've been watching course, a lot of the Holzer Files and stuff, and that's always a good program. Of course, Dave was on the show, and a lot of fun to talk to him. And but all those shows are. It's tough because the physical evidence outside of your recordings, your audible voice recordings that you get, there's just not a lot of like hard evidence, which to me is neither here nor there, because I think if you've experienced a ghost haunting, then it's real. So it's kind of like the UFO thing. Like, if you've seen a UFO, it's real up until recently, even though nobody would ever say, "Oh, dude, that's a real thing." Recently, it's come in vogue to see the evidence, or that the actual government says that they exist. If it weren't for them saying that they didn't exist, then that story would still be suspect. People would not believe you. So it's kind of the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess if the government was saying, we've got we're going to investigate ghost stories.
Right.
It would be a different ball of wax.
Right.
But,
right. But as of
course,
right.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as of right now, they're not a threat to our national security, I guess.
That we know.
Right. Or we'd be all over it.
Yeah. And, it's, it is, I guess I don't know. It is just because it's in spirituality, and spirits obviously, the root of that, and it's afterlife, and, and that's a lot of stuff that people, a lot of people just want to leave it as it is. They don't want to get into it,
Sure.
But it is funny how, like you said, with people who maybe they don't believe in weird things, maybe they don't believe in UFOs, but or they don't necessarily believe in ghosts. But then one weird thing that happened to me, right?
Yeah,
we always hear that a lot. So
yeah,
and of course, if you go and you look through our archive, most of the stories that I would say the majority of the stories we've heard are about hauntings or ghosts or ghost-like base kind of stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I guess it's got the more of, the oral tradition is more valuable with those stories. So
Sure.
But yeah, I wanted to bring that up in case anybody was wondering where all the ghost stories were. And it's just, we are all wondering where all the ghost stories are. Except we can go to the Travel Channel and watch the Holzer Files, and that's where they are.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, everybody, this is Dave Schrader from the Holzer Files on Travel Channel. You're listening to What's Your Weird Story?
Say, Barry.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest job you've ever had?
That's a good question. It would either have to be the time that I worked at a cattle feedlot or the time that I worked for a Greek painter.
Were you his model?
Not quite.
Well, it's funny because one of my weirdest jobs was being a model in art school, but it was portraits, not full body nude. The reason I'm asking is because those jobs may be kind of normal, but we know people are out there that have weirder jobs than that. Maybe you're a mortician. Maybe you're a scientist trying to bring back the dinosaurs or the woolly mammoth.
That'd be cool.
That would be really cool. If you guys out there have weird jobs, unusual jobs, crime scene photographer, maybe you worked at an adult educational film set, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Just something that's unusual, out of the ordinary, and, a little bit weird. Hey, those are cool stories, too. We'd love to hear those. So give us a call or an email or whatever. You know how to get a hold of us. Be part of the community of Weirdsville.
Well, again, we appreciate, all the crazy stories that we had in 2020. It was such a weird year. We had so many just different types of stories, a lot of UFO stuff, which, I'm always interested in. so a lot on that front this year. It was really kind of interesting. I'm curious as how this is going to shake out in 2021. I've already seen some stories that have been coming out that lead me to believe that there's going to be a lot more to uncover when it comes to the government and their knowledge of UAP, UFOs. Just an incredible array of really, really cool stories. And I hope that 2021 is a little more calm in the reality front as far as our day-to-day lives, but I hope it keeps, producing when it comes to, all these weird stories that surround us.
Yeah. I've got one last story real quick here, and I know I promised in the first roundup no COVID, no monolith, but this was a breaking monolith story. Okay. And it happened on December 25th, Christmas Day. And it's just, I think it's a nice wrap up for the whole monolith, which is not even finished yet. Their monoliths keep popping up all over the place. But, of course, they're all, we know now that it's all a man-made phenomenon. It's a meme. It's a real-world meme. So anyway, sure. This is my favorite of it, of the more recent ones. On Christmas Day, a 7-foot-tall edible monolith appeared on San Francisco's Corona Heights Park, which up in a mountain up there, and in the Bay Area. And it was edible. It was made of iced gingerbread.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
How's that? Yeah. That's a nice little Christmas monolith thing. And there's some pictures of it online, and it's pretty cool looking, man.
That's fun.
And then, of course, it fell the next day. It did not last long. And, because,
that's cool.
Every cookie is going to crumble, man.
Yeah, that's cool, though. That's a cool idea, man. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's just, again, there was just so much to the whole monolith explosion of all of these things and how it just ignited us as a world, as a human culture, and how they started popping up everywhere. Yeah. And, it's not just that it was here in the States, but it was in Europe and in Asia and India and which is part of Asia, but all over the world. These things were popping up. It is cool. It's kind of a weird idea that kind of unified us in a weird way. Like I said, a real world meme.
And it could only happen in modern society like that. I mean, you have to have the technology to be able to communicate so quickly with an idea. Exactly. And the fact that it just sort of is this a mundane weird oddity that happened, and then it just sort of caught fire, and that's part of humans that I love so much, is that we find beauty in just the absurd, and there's something fun about it to get you out of, especially this year when we needed something else to take our mind off of, what was going on. It was just it was a cool thing to have, man. So that's a cool wrap up to that story.
Yeah. And a nice little wrap up for the year as well, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. Awesome. Hey, thank you everybody. Again, another great year. We couldn't do it without you guys. We say it all the time, but it's really true. We can't do this thing without you guys. It's such a joy to be able to bring stories to folks in this facet. I think that people appreciate it, and we're trying to carry on the tradition of storytelling and do it in a way that's fun, and I think we got more to come this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good year. We all are putting that out into the world collectively. Yes, we're all put that idea that positive change and positive things are going to happen.
That's right.
And so let's all work together to make it a fun and more interesting, more weird, and just better place. So that's just a general practice goal that we should all prescribe to, I suppose. But
absolutely.
But yeah, thank you again, Weirdsville. Happy New Year. Good luck with all your New Year's resolutions, if you have any. And good luck with this year. Yeah. Just, all that good stuff. And and we will see you next week. In the meantime, you can go back and listen to our entire 125 now episodes, plus a few bonus for free. You can find us on all the places where wherever you listen to us, you can find us there. And hey, if you feel like it, send us a email or something at whatsyourweirdemail@gmail.com, or check out our Patreon, What's Your Weird Story, or our shirts and stuff. But more than anything, if you haven't subscribed to us, you should subscribe to us. But also, if you have subscribed to us, keep an eye out, because over the next couple of weeks, we will be switching our host platform. So we'll be hosting ourselves. So when that happens, and we'll be letting you know. But when that happens, if you are a subscriber, you will need to resubscribe. You'll notice a week where there's not an episode, maybe, if you haven't done it. But yeah, you'll need to do that in the near future here. But we'll give you a heads up more as that comes along. So yeah, subscribe if you can, especially on like iTunes. Go rate, give us high, 5 stars or whatever it is, and give us a good positive review. That helps bring new people, new listeners, new traffic to here. That's really one of the best ways to doing that. You can help us out. You can tell all your friends, maybe make a New Year's resolution to tell one person a week, maybe 3 people a month about the podcast. And if you hear somebody telling us a good, cool, weird story, send them our way. We need you guys to keep this going, because we love this. We hope you love it. We think you do. You're here with us all the time. You're awesome. There's not a better place on the internet than Weirdsville that I will at least plug on the air. This is a great community. If you're listening, you're a friend. So 2021, let's have a kick-ass year. Let's make it safe.
Let's make it weird.
As always, if you have a weird story, we want to hear it.
If you have a lot of them, we want to hear them all.
We can't do this podcast without your invaluable contributions.
Whether it's sharing your stories,
listening,
rating,
and spreading the word about the podcast. Thanks for listening. Until next time, be safe.
Be weird.
The stories presented on the What's Your Weird Story podcast are, to our knowledge, true experiences that our guests have had. We can't take the time to research all claims made